Hey guys, like most of you, I grew up using Kahle hooks and inshore fishing with live or cut bait. But as good as Kahle hooks are, and as much of an improvement as they are over the standard J hook, they have some serious problems that I'd like to discuss with you, as well as a much better alternative for live bait inshore. So let's get started. And remember, I will have links in the description to any of the products that I discuss in every video, and you should go visit usangler.com for full discussions of these topics. So, Kahle hooks were a dramatic improvement over the standard J hook. They feature a very wide mouth, that is the space between the shank and the point, and their unusual shape allows them to accommodate a wide variety of live and cut bait. Everything from cut mullet to menhaden to crab to shrimp. They're really a pretty good hook in a lot of ways, but they have two problems. The first is that because of their shape and design, it's relatively easy for that live bait to end up covering part of the hook. That can make it difficult to set the hook powerfully at distance, and a Kahle hook needs a hard hook set to really drive it home. The second problem with a Kahle hook is that because when you're fishing with live bait, you need to wait and pause just a second before you set that hook. If you don't know that a fish is taking your bait, whether because your rod's in a rod holder, you're not paying attention, you're busy doing something else, if you don't set the hook properly with a Kahle hook at just the right moment, it is pretty likely that the fish in question is going to take your bait and hook and swallow it and end up gut hooked and dead. For catch and release fishing, that's simply unacceptable. And even if you wish to keep your catch, they're going to last a lot longer alive in a live well or on ice than they will dead. So what's the alternative to a Kahle hook? Circle hooks, and to the same extent octopus hooks, are an attempt to improve on the Kahle's design. What they do is they keep the whole hook relatively small so that it is less obtrusive when it's holding your bait, but the design of the hook brings the point back in line with the shank so that it still holds really well in all kinds of bait, but it's self-hooking. And this is a really big deal. The way you use a circle hook isn't to set the hook like you usually do with a Kahle hook. Instead, you simply let the fish take it. And as that fish grabs your bait and hook and swallows the hook and starts to move away, that hook is going to move and catch naturally in the corner of its mouth. And I think if I'm right about this, I think the hookup percentage is something like 98 or 99%, which is simply fantastic. That's way better than you're ever going to get with a Kahle hook, even when you're trying to set the hook properly. The second thing that circle hooks do really, really well is they avoid gut hooking. Because you don't have to time the hook set and get it right, and because the circle hook is going to hook in the corner of that fish's mouth when it takes your bait, you're not going to get gut hooked nearly as much. It's very rare with circle hooks. That makes circle hooks tremendously better for live bait fishing inshore than Kahle hooks. Think about it. You won't have to constantly watch your rod. This allows you to fish with one rod and a rod holder, or two rods and a rod holder, whatever's legal where you are per fisherman, while actively fishing lures at the same time. That's an advantage that I wouldn't pass up just so that I can use a hook that I grew up with. I think that if you give up your Kahle hooks and try circle hooks, you'll never look back. Be talking to you soon.